Hopefully it remains peaceful. Christina, thank you so much for that report. All right, let's bring in Judge Andrew Napolitano, our senior judicial analyst, to discuss all of these cases and more. Judge, thanks so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, Lydia.
So this Turkish student, she was here on a student visa, but now it's been revoked. DHS and ICE investigations finding that she engaged in activities in support of Hamas. A spokesperson also said that a visa is a privilege and not a right, and glorifying and supporting terrorists who kill Americans is grounds for visa issuance to be terminated. This is common sense security. Do you agree, Judge?
I do not agree, because the First Amendment trumps everything, lowercase t, in Trump, and the right to speak freely has been upheld by the Supreme Court. It applies to everybody in the United States, whether you're here legally or not. What the Turkish student said was that the Israeli government had denied food, water, and electricity to Gaza. That is true. That was announced by the Israeli defense minister. It's incendiary, but it's true. And it is protected speech. The stopping her on the street by police wearing masks who weren't even identified as police, bringing her to a place where she's never been, Louisiana, keeping her from her own lawyers is horrifying and a violation of at least a half dozen Supreme Court opinions. I hope that it is soon rectified.
Moving on to another legal case, a three-judge panel from an appeals court has decided to side with Judge James Boasberg, refusing to lift the block on President Trump's move to deport those Tren de Aragua members from Venezuela to El Salvador's mega prison. The appellate court ruling 2-1 against the use of the 1798 wartime law, the Alien Enemies Act. But the White House is ready to send this case all the way to the Supreme Court. What do you think? Does it go to the Supreme Court? What's your thoughts?
So this is not a ruling on the merits, meaning, Lydia, the three-judge panel, which ruled 2-1, did not rule 2-1 that the president can't use the Enemy Alien Act. They only ruled that Judge Boasberg can stop the use of that act for however long it takes him to resolve the case. That's called a preliminary injunction. So does the Supreme Court get involved in preliminary injunctions? Typically, it does not. Typically, it waits until the decision is made with finality by Judge Boasberg, and then by the appellate court, and then the Supreme Court will get involved. I know the president's mentality. He doesn't like to lose these cases. He likes to appeal them to the hilt. So expect the DOJ to file for permission to appeal to the Supreme Court. They have to ask the Supreme Court for permission. This allows the Supreme Court to say no without ruling on the merits. Basically, come back to us when the case is over.
And speaking of that judge, James Boasberg, he's assigned to preside over the Signal lawsuit. You know, of course, that Signal chat leak. Trump writing on Truth Social about Boasberg, quote, he is highly conflicted, not only in his hatred of me, massive Trump derangement syndrome, but also because of disqualifying family conflicts. Boasberg, who is the chief judge of the D.C. District Court, seems to be grabbing the Trump cases all to himself, even though it is not supposed to happen that way. How does it happen, Judge? How is it? It does seem highly coincidental,
yeah, it
right?
It is highly unusual for one judge, particularly the chief judge, to have the two most hot potato cases. The president is right. They actually use a wheel. In the old days, it was a wheel, and on the wheel there was a clip with the judge's name, and whoever was up next on the wheel got the next case. Today, it's done by computer, and theoretically, it is an incorruptible system. Theoretically, it's just a coincidence that Judge Boasberg has this case. But to give the president a little comfort, the case is frivolous. These are people suing Pete Hegseth, saying they were harmed by what Pete did. I defy anyone to show how they were harmed by what the Secretary of Defense did. There was potential harm to the pilots, but there was no actual harm to anyone. So I think this case against the people involved in the Signal's communication is frivolous, and Judge Boasberg will dismiss it.